Good evening. I would like to call order the March 9th, 2015 Bellbrook City Council meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Edwards?
Here.
Mr. Greenwood?
Here.
Mr. Martin? He's not here. Mrs. Middlestetter?
Here.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Schweller?
Here.
And Mayor Baird?
Here. May I have a motion to excuse Mr. Barton?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Middlestetter to excuse Mr. Martin, seconded by Mr. Schweller. Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mr. Schweller?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
And Mayor Baird?
Yes. Formal approval of the executive session and the regular city council meeting minutes of February 23rd, 2015. Does any member on council have any corrections or additions to the regular city council meeting minutes?
No.
I had none.
Seeing none, they're approved as written. Mayor's announcements. Couple things under mayor announcements this evening. First, we have a promotion, and I have an oath of office. Would now Detective Salyers, soon to be Sergeant Salyers, please come up, or do we need the
Yep.
chief up?
And Chief probably has something to say first.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a big night for Detective Keith Salyers, soon to be Sergeant Salyers, but I wanted this group to kind of know a little bit about what Keith has meant to us in the last year since I've been here. He has served as a detective for the last 12 years. He's built up the position of detective into one that has never been seen here before. I think there was 25 felony filings this past year, which rivals any detective in any city in Greene County. But some of the notable things that Detective Salyers has done or has been part of, he's a member of the CART team, which is a child abduction response team. He is a liaison with the Secret Service, which works on fraud cases, checks and such. He's a departmental trainer for ADAP, which is Advanced Detection for Apprehension and Prosecution for people that drive under the influence. He's our departmental training for evidence techs. If you've been down in the lobby recently, you've seen the monitor that we have up there that was Detective Salyers' idea. He came up with the challenge coin idea this year. One of the most important things he's done this past year has helped, while the administrative assistant, Cindy Powell's been out, he's done that job, he's done his own job, and he's also trained one of the new police officers, the training, the part-timers, and he's also trained his replacement, Tony Vetter. So he's been kind of doing 4 big things, which was very helpful. So we look forward to the changes that he'll bring as a sergeant on midnight shift, and I turn him over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Detective Salyers. If you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Keith Salyers,
I, Keith Salyers,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Ohio,
of the State of Ohio,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will,
and will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
uphold and enforce
uphold and enforce
the provisions of the Charter
provisions of the Charter
and the ordinances of the city,
and the ordinances of the city,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
or upon about to.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
I made that last one long, so I'm giving you a test. We need a signature, and we'll give this to Mr. Schlagheck. What is the date today?
Ninth.
3-9. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Council,
Oh.
we have a sergeant's badge that we have Detective Salyer's mom pin onto him, so if you guys can take the front. This is always classic.
We can't see it this way.
All right.
Congratulations.
I would like to congratulate Sergeant Salyers, and I would like to thank him for all the efforts he's done as a detective, and hopefully will continue and mentor Mr. Vetter. And I appreciate all the work you've done throughout the, how many years now, Keith?
12 years.
12 years. So thank you very much. Anyone on council have anything they would like to add?
Just add my congratulations. Nice job. Thanks.
Congratulations.
Ditto that all the way down.
Next, while we're on this topic, we have Police Chief Doug Dowry, and we have our annual report.
One at a time. One for each eye.
Feast your family.
Yeah, you're good.
So, as many of you may know, the annual report's a little different than it has been in years past. City manager tasked me with changing a few things, so what I've done is we put just some of the basics on here. I don't want to belabor the point. I think you've all read the annual report, but there's some highlights in the report that I would like to just take a quick look at. The annual report was a kind of a compilation of myself, Lieutenant Carmen, Sergeant Meade, Keith Salyers, and Senior Officer Jackie Jones, who did the crash stats, and she does a lot of the crash work with us. She's a reconstructionist, so everybody had a hand in this report. The mission statement, it's pretty similar to what was there. What I really wanted to emphasize that was the police-citizen partnership and our work with the citizens and how important that is to us going forward as an organization and as a city working together to get things accomplished. I think you've probably seen or heard things already that we've done that bear that out. Here is a copy of the challenge coin that we had made this year. On the front, obviously, it has a Bellbrook Police Department and the year city Bellbrook came into being. There's the city crest on the back with the courage, loyalty, and community surrounding the coin. So I just commented a little bit about what each of those what meant to us and how they work with the city. Here we have our organizational chart. It's pretty simple. There's not that many of us, but obviously the chief, lieutenant, goes down to the lieutenant is the direct supervisor of the detective. Detective answers to the lieutenant on day-to-day operations. He kind of keeps track of where he's going, what he's doing. Now, where Detective Satyrs is going to come in, and since he's going to be working midnights, every morning he and Detective Vetter will be going over investigative reports, investigations, the caseload. You know, if Tony has any questions, he can ask Keith while they're changing, you know, at roll call. So they'll have some time together to share that. And then the only difference now that we'll have next year is we'll have 2 patrol sergeants. And everything else will stay the same, except the full-time patrol officers will be 7 and not 8, since we took one of those to make the sergeant. So thank you again for allowing us to do that. I think you'll see some true benefits in having supervisor on all 3 shifts. These are our 2015 goals and objectives. From administration, we have some that I think are very important in police, in modern day police work, and that is physical fitness. I've talked with the city manager about developing a physical agility test. It's kind of 3 parts: the physical agility test, the fitness challenge, which would be something that we would not be mandatory for anybody, but if they want to do a little more or test themselves, they might be able to earn a fitness ribbon for their dress uniform. And then we would have just the idea of fitness, doing a little more with fitness in cooperation with the city. We have, obviously, a big part of this for us is seeking opportunities for community involvement. Like I said, I think we've done some things already. This year, we have spoken at the Bellbrook Community Church. We had an active shooter class that Officer Tony Rubel put on. It was a good turnout, but it was very cold, so I don't know if many people got out to see it. So I had an idea about having some type of a town hall lecture series where we would use their church and have through the months of summer, June, July, and August, having Lieutenant Carmen put on a internet safety for everybody. Detective Salyers or Sergeant Salyers would put on identity theft and fraud, how to protect yourselves if you were to become a victim, or how to prevent yourself from being a victim. And then following it up again with Officer Rubel with the active shooter thing again, just to kind of reemphasize to people where they can, what's important to them if they find themselves in a situation. Patrol operations, we're still working on the MDT project. Lieutenant Carmen's in charge of that. We have 2 installed, and we're going to have 4 more installed this year. We have, we're kind of working through some small bugs. We just want to make sure, or I'm a little cautious to make sure that everything's run smooth before we order the 4 more, so we don't have a systematic problem across the board with all 6. And so if there are problems, we'll fix it before we put in new ones. But that will all happen in 2015. We talked about driver training. Lieutenant Carmen had the Alice training, which was a big hit at the middle school a couple weeks ago. I think the school superintendent and all the teachers that were in attendance ecstatic with how that turned out and the training that it was. And Lieutenant Carmen had a big hand in that, so I appreciate that. Obviously, with training, we want to continue to utilize a training committee. That's new this past year. It's comprised of a lieutenant, a sergeant, and a couple officers on there. They review training requests that come from the officers, and they will look at it. They will compare with our training budget, and they will determine their peers if they want to, or if they think it's necessary, that training to go forward. So I think that's important to get that involvement with those people, and not just have it, yes, they kind of work under the auspices of me and what's important, but give them the latitude and the freedom to decide specifically what's going to happen. Calls for service by hour. As you might, no surprise here, the 5P to 11P is our busiest time. That's indicative of any police department anywhere. It's always going to be the busy time, and that's indicated here. Obviously, it falls off, at night. It goes down and it picks back up when school starts up, and it kind of slowly rises to the 11 o'clock crescendo, and then it starts to go back down again. But that's pretty standard with every police department. Type of crime. We have, the biggest crime that we have are thefts. Thefts from cars, houses. So we think that we may have had, perhaps some of these numbers will go down next year. We have made a significant arrest that may stem some of these incidents. So we'll be curious to see what happens next year when we compare numbers and see where we stand. But right now, theft is number one. Drug-related offenses is number two, and that's predominantly marijuana and heroin. We had one meth arrest this past year, and that person's still in the county jail. So I don't see a big trend with that yet, but that's Bellbrook's not safe from all the other drug problems that happen throughout Greene County and the Miami Valley. So then, of course, the last one we have is the forgery and fraud, bad checks. That takes a lot of time, and we get a lot of work for the detective when he does that work, the follow-ups. Types of crime, I'll just touch on the drug-related, because if you look at the numbers, they're all pretty much within an acceptable range. There's really no spike or up or down. The vandalism's down a little bit, but the drug-related crime, as you can see from years past, it's kind of gone up a little bit. And we just attribute that to, one, aggressive patrol in the evenings. We've had Sergeant Meade, who has made a few significant arrests at night, and then just everybody else doing their part. But 80% of those are predominantly marijuana related. 19% is heroin, and then, like I said, just one with the methamphetamine, the meth case. The traffic accidents, these were put together by Officer Jackie Jones. We had 62 total crashes for the year, which is it's on par with the trend of what's been going on the last few years. The number is actually pretty low. That works out to be roughly. I actually had 72 as our number, but it works out to be about an accident every 6 days or so. So we're not inundated with those, but I can tell you the types of accidents that occur in the roadway is number one, obviously, and those are, as you saw in the annual report, there's the main thoroughfare on Franklin Street is where a lot of our accidents, that's most where the traffic comes. It's driving a little faster, so you'll have the accidents on that. We spend a lot of time, and you've probably seen us sitting, throughout up and down on Franklin, trying to minimize that. But still, we have a number of accidents, private property. Hit skip is up a little bit, and there's nothing to do to control that. So we're working and we're listening to the citizens. If there's an issue in their neighborhoods, we're addressing it. The patrol lieutenant's listening and taking phone calls from the citizens if they need extra patrol in an area. If there's people running stop signs. When we did our walk through the city last year, we heard a lot of those type of issues, and we subsequently addressed and assigned officers to those areas to address their individual concerns. Talked about that. So the number one issue is there's two. There's failure to control and leaving the scene as far as percent. The assure clear distance is it's pretty close to that. That's a pretty simple. Running into the back of somebody, you're not paying attention, and or the roads are icy and you slide into the person in front of you. So, like I said, we don't have a lot of the crashes. We're not that big. The city's not that big. There's 7,000 citizens, but what we do when we investigate those is we give the best customer care that we can and provide the people that are involved in the accidents every piece of information that they need going forward to their insurance company, and obviously making sure that they're not hurt. The last slide, just wanted to take a moment and thank everybody for these two types of vehicles. The bikes, we had those out during the summer. They seem to be a big hit. I wanted to thank all of you for allowing us to do that. We have 2 bikes. We have 2 officers that are trained on bikes. We might try to get a 3rd person through if we find the right training that fits us and our needs for for manpower during the summer. And we also have Detective Vetter, who is he's off the road but going to be a detective, and he tells me he wants to try to maintain a day or 2 to go out and work off some frustration and ride the bike. So either way, that will the city of, and the citizens here in Bellbrook will enjoy the fruits of that. The SUV, had a chance to talk with Councilman Schweller just before the meeting, and I can tell you that the officers wanted to make sure that, first of all, they said thank you. I echo that as well. But we didn't have any incidents this year of anybody driving these where they had any issues with the snow or the ice. I was told that they're even had problems in the front lot. Just when they pull in, it would be kind of a little bit of a hill, and they would get stuck right in front of the lot. So none of those problems this year. I don't look forward, moving forward as we add these type of vehicles to our fleet. I think that everybody will be served in a better capacity, and I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to move forward with those. I think that's the last slide I have.
Thank you, Chief. Council, do we have any questions for our police chief?
I'm not familiar with the coin. What do you do with the coin thing?
What is it?
What's the purpose of it, and what?
Yeah, it's basically just a morale thing. It's a camaraderie it's indicative of what is important to each city. So you'll have them here in Bellbrook. They have them in Xenia, Centerville. Throughout. Greene County has them. All the most police departments do. And it's just a symbol, I guess, of what is important to us in Bellbrook: loyalty, courage, commitment. We give those and the crest. So everybody's is a little different, and the setup is a little different, but it's just kind of a little morale boost for the guys because they're important. They buy them for themselves, and I have some downstairs that I give to people if they come in and help us with the training, or if there's something that they do to assist us. I'll send a coin with a thank you card or something like that. So it's a nice token of our esteem.
Chief, I like the report. It was brief. I like that. I just got back from my son's wedding, and I can appreciate the effort you went through to get pictures of the entire staff in there. And I know that's not it's not a simple undertaking. Just 2 questions. We've spent a lot of time talking about Possum Run Road. I didn't see that in here for any specific accident reports or anything like that. But has our speeding situation been controlled there? We're still hearing about. I know some folks have moved out of the area, but is that still the problem it is? Are we adequately enforcing right now with the stop sign and so forth?
We have the speed boards up there, and then I have not received any further
Okay.
complaints over there. I don't know that you've
I have
received.
not either.
Okay.
Not specifically, and I can tell you,
Okay.
we
Problem
have.
solved.
Yeah. So,
Move on.
but we're sensitive to anything that people would bring to us, and
Okay.
would be
Okay.
willing to address anything.
We're probably okay till you brought it up.
No, it's not going to work. The other thing is this.
Just on that, those speed boards, they actually do track data also. So they
Okay.
are doing traffic counts, they're doing speed studies. So at any time, we can look at that and see what, so we can periodically look to see if there is an issue or if the speed is rising, things of that nature. So in the relative near future, we're going to have to resurface that road. I'm concerned that at that point, that may cause, it's a fairly rough road right now, but, once it's a nice smooth road again, that
Yeah.
may cause some issues, but we do monitor it.
Thanks. On the identity theft, I'm in the tax business. We see more and more of this stuff all the time. We file the identity theft affidavits. I know Ohio's got a form, the IRS has a form. If citizens are aware of identity theft through their tax return, should they also report that to the city police department? Is that something you want to investigate or something you need to look into? We better off just filing the identity theft form with the taxing agency as they've instructed us to do to basically initiate the filing of the return or complete the transaction?
Well, two things on that issue. If someone has made a legitimate return and there's something that has become of that where it's fraudulent, of course, we need to let us know, and
Okay.
we can contact the IRS. We have contacts with their department, and we
Okay.
worked with them on point number 2, which is people, scammers will call these people at home and call and say that you misfiled your report and you owe us X number of dollars.
Right.
If you don't remit that money, then we'll come and arrest you. So people are now coming to us and they're frazzled, thinking that the IRS is going to come and arrest them. So we're documenting those, we're taking reports on those, and we're contacting the IRS directly on those. And they're working on, it's not just Bellbrook, it's throughout the Miami Valley. So
Yeah, it's huge, yeah.
they're well aware of those issues. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Chief, I have a question. Last summer, you instituted that meet and greet neighborhood walkthrough program. Is that going to continue again this summer?
Well, what our ultimate goal is to meet as many people as possible to address issues. I think it was a great opening, and it was something we would do. I think it might be something that we would probably push back to fall, because the flat feet that were out there hitting the pavement for 2 hours during the summer was a bit arduous. And we met some people, but it was kind of a hit or miss type of thing. So we think with the town hall series, that's more of a concentration where the people are coming to us, and then we can talk about something. We think that these are 3 issues that are important, and not just talking maybe smaller things, but maybe things that affect everybody. Like the computer safety, identity theft, and active shooter, which has been in the news recently. So. I know it's important, and I think we got a lot of good pub from that, but if we do something, I think we'll probably push it back till September, October, and then I'll have to try to decide, how we, where we go and how we announce that, but something that we're still working on, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I know I walked with them, I don't know how long it was, an hour or two probably.
I think so.
And we covered a lot of ground, but one, it does sort of concern some people too. They see, and we talked to a few people, but not a lot. A lot of that may be the time of day you go, maybe, you need to do it on a weekend, I don't know. But I think initially it brought out some concern in residents first, because they see these guys walking around the neighborhood and they're obviously thinking they're looking for somebody or something's going on. So,
Some people would probably turn their lights off and lay on the floor.
Well, it was that was usually the opener.
Yeah.
People pull up next to us and say, "My gosh, what's going on?" There's the chief, the lieutenant, and the sergeant out walking, side by side out on the street.
Yeah.
So it had somewhat of an Old West feel to it.
it sort of did.
I'm not really sure that's what we were aiming for, but it was a good tactic, and I think a lot of people enjoyed
Yeah.
it. Once we got to talk to them.
Yeah, I think
it
that's
was
the
good.
key. Once you broke the ice, then you were fine. But there are probably some people who weren't going to come out and talk to you, and obviously depends on what neighborhoods. But Nick, any other questions? 25 felling, are these grand jury 25, or are these? And what were most of the 25 felonies?
I believe they were the fraud is the majority of those. You can have a bad check, a counterfeit check, ID theft, and those will be, Detective Salyers works tirelessly on those to get what he can with those. And I think this year was probably higher than even the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So he works very hard with those. Obviously, we expect the same thing with Detective Vetter. They have two different styles, I can tell you, but they're both determined officers, and I don't think we're going to see a drop-off in any of the work capacity.
Been a majority of fraud, okay.
Yes.
Have these already went through the grand jury, or are these just filed? Or-
I'm pretty sure those were what we had for,
Okay.
Those were filed for 2014. I don't know if they've all been through the court case or
Yeah,
adjudicated.
yeah.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want us to know so that we can help to continue to support the police department? I mean, is there any concerns that you have that you're like, wow, 2015 is really going to be tough because of anything?
I really don't. I stay in touch with the city manager pretty regularly, and we have frank discussions. And this past year was the first year that I had been through a budget process as a chief, obviously. So operational, and personnel and capital, those were kind of a little bit new to me as to how to set that up. But I think we did that together well, and so I think we're pretty well set up. Obviously, as we go through this year, I'm already making notes on things for our budget meeting in August or September. But I can't say anything that we're in want or need of anything. Council has been very supportive of everybody here in the police department, and people ask me how I've done. How do you like it in Bellbrook? And I can tell you that you guys have been very supportive and helpful in my first year and with the police department, and look forward to that continued partnership. Thank you.
Great.
Chief, you already mentioned the one concerning, drug related, that one was up quite a bit. I noticed, the juvenile problems was the other big jump on the service comparison. I'm assuming those are probably related. And I guess, what I'm getting to is, is there something, are there any insights that, you and what your force is seeing out there that, we need to be aware of, parents need to be aware of on, things maybe we should be looking for, or things that we can, things we can be doing?
Yeah, I don't think there's any. Any special step or cure for that. I can tell you, my wife works in juvenile detention in Greene County, so I don't get to escape that conversation very often. But it's very frustrating. I can tell you, through the years when I was in Xenia, it was very frustrating to because that problem, it's hard to put your finger on it because. The police department as a whole, generally speaking, is a proactive reactive force. Sorry, we try to become proactive and try to deal with things to prevent things from happening. But by and large, there's a lot of problems that parents are coming and reporting to us, the schools, at home. Issues, domestic disturbance, or fighting, or things at school that get out of hand. But we try to work very hard with dealing with the parents with the issues at hand. We're not frivolous with charging people if we don't think they need to be, but if there's something that we think needs to be addressed, or a lot of times you'll have parents that will ask, please, can you help us? We need help with this, and of course we have a lot of tools at our disposal, working through Greene County Court, juvenile court. So maybe some of that is that, because now we're putting people into the system because we'll have people asking for assistance or diversion or pre-diversion. There's a bunch of different types of steps or assistance that can help, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a gang problem or there's a uptick in behavior. So there's a group out there or groups that are off the hook. I don't think that's what it's saying at all, but it might be just that we're trying to get people into the right placement for the proper help,
Sure.
and not just being in the system with a charge.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on council?
Chief, I just had a couple. Congratulations on coming off probation. But the town hall meetings, is that something that we can televise, Mark?
I don't, we could probably record them and replay
Yeah,
them.
I would suggest tape them if you want to. I don't.
Depending on the venue, the only way we could do it live is if we did it in this room. But I think the chief was talking about doing it like
Yeah,
at the
tape 'em
community.
would be fine.
Yeah, we could arrange to have them taped and then replayed on the cable access.
Maybe a good job for our high school video students to get involved in, to maybe.
Now, Pastor Ralph, who runs the Bellbrook Community Church, his son gave Officer Rubel and I a crash course on setting up their system. They have a pretty nice system there. So I can be in touch with him and ask him, the feasibility of being able to tape that to be able to play on an access channel at a later time. But we would do it here, but my hope is that we would have more people than this room could
Right.
facilitate. So, but we'll see. That's a very good idea. I'll look into that.
Okay. The other thing is, you talk a lot about different training your officers go through. Are you comfortable at the level that you're at now, or is this something that, are you good? Are you just trying to make it better, or are you kind of behind? At what level of training you feel you're at?
Well, I think that is, I have to say that that's one area that Chief Helling, I think he was good in a lot of areas, and the training was a very good area. We're maintaining trying to do a training, departmental training once a month. The only difference we're doing is having the training committee try to decide what those individual trainings will be for the department and for the individual officer. So we get those kind of trainings that we'll put in-house that we have. We get offers to attend. Next month we have 2 trainings that I think we're going to try. The one with the ACE Task Force with clandestine operations with meth houses and drug identification, and then 2 explosive devices with the gentleman that's going to come in with the fire department. So that won't be a mandatory training, but that'll be available to us. So I think that's an example. I think we're getting very good training through Lexipol. We have daily training bulletins that the officers are responsible for, and also through OLEG. We have at least 4 continuing training units that we have to complete. Now they say that we just need 1, that's for domestic violence, and then the other trainings that we have throughout the year will count towards continuing credit. But Sergeant Meade, is a stickler for that, and he wants everybody to just do the stuff online to get that no matter what, the individual trainings, if people miss it or not. So we won't have to worry about that. So I'd say we're probably pretty good with the training. It's just for us trying to develop different types of training, the force-on-force training that's relevant in the world today, that try to get the officers prepared for active shooters, or if someone's going to come out on a traffic stop and try to fight the police department. So how do we respond in kind to that without staying within our policies and procedures and without violating civil rights, but maintaining a level of safety for us. So, but to answer your question, yes, I think we have a pretty good handle and level of training as it goes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have, Chief.
Any other questions on council? Seeing none, thank you very much, Chief. Very nice job. Thanks for all the hard work, and I've definitely heard a lot of positive comments throughout the community, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Moving on, public hearing of ordinances. Ordinance number 2015-2. Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 2015-2, an ordinance amending Chapter 1042 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code relating to increase the fees charged for tap-ins. Whereas the City of Bellbrook provides water service to customers in Bellbrook and certain areas of Sugar Creek Township, and whereas the City of Bellbrook charges a tap-in fee when development occurs, and whereas these tap-in fees are required for the long-term maintenance and improvement of the Bellbrook water system, and whereas the amount of this tap-in fee has not been increased since 2010, now therefore the City of Bellbrook hereby ordains, Section 1, that the following amendments to Chapter 1042 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code be approved, deletions shown by brackets and strike throughs, and additions shown by italics and underlined. Section 1042-08 is hereby amended as follows. Section A. Section A shows a chart from the meter size ranging from 3/4 of an inch or less to 12 inches, with various tap-in fees from the 3/4 or of an inch or less at $3,000 to the 12-inch at $73,200, and everywhere in between. A tap-in connection fee of $3,000 per unit shall be charged for multifamily dwellings and for multi-unit businesses served by a common entrance, regardless of the number of sizes of meters required to provide adequate service to the building. However, the case of the multi-unit business building in which small offices share common restroom facilities and for which only 1 meter of 1 inch or more is required, the tap-in fee and connection fee shall be based upon the size of the 1 meter instead of the per meter unit shown above. Upon request by the building owner and approval of the city manager, the number and sizes of the water meters required shall be commensurate with the usage and load of such establishment as determined by the city service director. This ordinance shall take effect and be in force May 1st, 2015.
Yes, this is, as we've talked about at a couple meetings here, we'll have the public hearing in a moment, but this is an increase to the tap-in fees. The tap-in fees have not been increased since 2010. So this is a relatively moderate fee increase. The majority of the meters that we get, the tap-ins, are at the 3/4 inch or less, so that is going from $2,800 per tap-in to $3,000 per tap-in, so it's just a $200 increase.
I know we've talked about this. This is a public hearing. We can start on city council if anyone has any questions for our city manager.
I don't, Mayor.
I don't. I've checked around. I know this is pretty competitive with other areas in the surrounding area.
Yeah, we're still actually considerably lower than Greene County is, and we're comparable to other
Yep.
communities in the area.
So I really don't have any other questions. So this is a public hearing. If anyone in the audience would like to come up, we have a big audience, and I think I know everyone in the room. Seeing no one coming forward, I move that this public hearing is closed. May I have a motion to approve ordinance number 2015-2?
I'll make an ordinance to approve ordinance number 2015-2.
May I have a second?
I will second.
I have a motion by Mr. Edwards to adopt ordinance number 2015-2, amending chapter 1042 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code relating to the fees charged for tap-ins, seconded by Mr. Martin. Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Schweller?
Yes.
Mayor Bear?
Yes. Resolutions, we have 3 this evening. Starting out, Resolution 2015-F. Mrs. Seeger Lawson.
Resolution number 2015-F, a resolution authorizing the city manager to participate in a contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program for the purchase of a single-axis chassis for the city of Bellbrook. Whereas Section 240-.03 of the Municipal Code allows the city to purchase goods and services through a cooperative arrangement with another governmental entity. And whereas the Ohio Department of Transportation has entered into a contract with Rush Truck Centers in Cincinnati, Ohio, for the purchase of certain equipment in accordance with Section 5513.01B of the Ohio Revised Code. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the city manager is hereby authorized to participate in a contract with Rush Truck Centers for the purchase of the following vehicle for the Bellbrook Service Department. 1 2016 International 7400 SFA 4x2 single-axis chassis, cabin chassis, for a gross price of $82,137. Section 2, that the City of Bellbrook directly pays the vendor for said equipment under state contract. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period allowed by law.
Yes, actually, the next 2 resolutions are related. In the 2015 budget, the Service Department included the purchase of a new dump truck snowplow. The total budgeted price was $140,000. This is for the access or the cabin chassis, gross price of $82,000. just to give you a little idea, in 2011, we purchased this same cabin chassis, and it was $67,000. And the difference being all the emission changes that have gone on since then. We were able to purchase the last one. Was one of the last ones we were able to purchase under the old emission standards. So that has caused a $15,000 price increase just in the cabin chassis. And then later on in the next resolution, we'll talk about the other equipment that's needed for this truck. But this is a bid price from ODOT. Obviously, they buy a lot more trucks than we do, so I can't imagine we get a better price by doing anything else, but this is the price that we have for this cabin chassis.
Is it really a 2016? Would you buy that now?
Yes, by the time that it's, yeah, I don't know what the model years is, but that's what they've quoted us as the 2016. The reason that seems odd that here on the first nice day of the year we're buying this, but we want to have it in place, and it'll take virtually that long to have it in place and equipped and ready to go by next winter.
Is this a replacement one?
Yes.
Okay.
We have 3 of them now. We have 2 frontline and 1 reserve that we only bring out in the heavy snow. What that'll do is one of our frontline will go to the reserve. We'll get rid of that reserve one. At some point here in the future, you'll probably later this year, you'll see that we'll declare that surplus. We'll auction that off. We'll probably get a decent price for that because they are still workable. But I believe this one was a 92 or something like that is the year of the model that, or of the reserve one that we'll be getting rid of.
That's pretty old.
Yeah.
Any other questions on council?
Maybe this doesn't matter, but I actually think these are single axle chassis, AXLE.
Yeah, you're probably, that's what it is.
Single axle.
It is axle. I thought I had read that somewhere, but yes, so we should probably correct that.
Versus single axle. You can get a double for that price. Go for it.
Maybe that's why it's $82,000. We're buying a single axis cabin chassis, whatever that is.
So noting the change, does anyone else have any other questions? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt resolution 2015-F?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2015-F.
May I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Seeger Lawson to adopt resolution number 2015-F, authorizing the city manager to participate in a contract with Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program for the purchase of a single axle chassis for the city of Bellbrook. Mrs. Seeger Lawson.
Yes.
Mr. Schweller.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter.
Yes.
And Mayor Barry.
Yes. Moving on, resolution 2015-G. Mr. Greenwood.
Yes, Mayor, resolution number 2015-G. The resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with a KE Rose Company for the purchase of truck equipment and waiving competitive bidding. Whereas the city council has determined that its normal competitive bidding procedure is not practical in this case due to the timing and availability of the truck equipment. And whereas the KE Rose Company can furnish the required truck equipment and have it installed in the time frame required by the city. And whereas the KE Rose Company has provided a quotation detailing truck equipment to be furnished and installed totaling $63,475. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the normal competitive bidding procedure is hereby waived for the purchase of truck equipment, including a dump body, central hydraulics, salt spreader, snow plow, lighting system, and other accessories. Section 2, that the city manager is hereby authorized to enter into a contract in the amount of $63,475 with the KE Rose Company for the purchase of truck equipment for the Bellbrook Service Department. Section 3, that the city manager is hereby authorized to do all things necessary to execute the contract with the KE Rose Company. Section 4, that this resolution shall take effect and be in force from and after the earliest period allowed by law.
Yes, this is the other part of the truck, obviously another very expensive part of the truck. $63,000 worth of equipment. That equipment includes the dump body, the hydraulics, the spreader, the snow plow, the lighting, all those features. That's what totals up to that $63,000. We're requesting to waive competitive bidding. There are really two vendors in the Dayton, Cincinnati area that provide this type of equipment. We have had many dealings with KE Rose in the past. They've done a lot of things. They're the ones who do our police cruisers also. They do the service vehicles, things of that nature. The other vendor in the area, we have not had very good luck with, and we have spoken with other cities just recently who have had similar issues. So by doing this, we think this is our best option. There are other vendors, but they're in Toledo, they're in Akron, things like that, which just are not practical when you're talking about outfitting a snowplow on a truck and things of that nature. So that's why we're requesting to waive competitive bidding and go have the contract with KE Rose for just over $63,000.
And this is all obviously within our capital budget for 2015.
It is slightly above, our budgeted price was 140, this will end up being about 145, so it is slightly above, but we think we can make up that difference with savings and other capital items that we have planned to purchase this year.
Questions?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming there's no such thing as a state contract or a process where the state buys this sort of thing.
No, I mean, they do, but a lot of times, a lot of their trucks are bigger and things of that nature. So they do not have a contract with a single vendor like they do for the cab and chassis and things of that nature.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
so yeah, this price is high, but I mean, not high. We think it's competitive, but it's the best that we believe we can do at this point.
Okay.
And again, for the timing purpose, we need to have this stuff ordered at the same time we order the cab and chassis, so when the cab and chassis is ready, they can put it in the queue and get it ready and have it ready by November of this year.
I think one of the things with this type of equipment, it has to be locally manufactured, a lot of it, and fitted, and it takes a lot more man hours, and that's why that price is a little pricey.
Yeah.
Well, I
yes.
mean, and as you said, I think it's also important, you know, to deal with a local company. If you have a problem,
Or
you
breaks.
don't want to be taking a truck to
Yeah.
Akron to get it, you know, get
Right.
it worked on, so.
And like I said, KE Rose, we've used them. We use them to outfit our police vehicles. I mean, they have a vested interest in doing good work for us, not just because of this one truck, but because
Right.
we're a long-term customer of theirs.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions on council? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2015-G?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2015-G.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Greenwood to adopt resolution number 2015-G, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the KE Rose Company for the purchase of truck equipment and waiving competitive bidding, seconded by Mr. Martin. Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Schweller?
Yes.
Mayor Baird?
Yes. Moving on, resolution 2015-H. Mr. Schweller.
Yes, Mayor, Resolution 2015-H, a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the City of Bellbrook's deferred compensation plan administered by the ICMA Retirement Corporation to allow designated Roth accounts. Whereas the City of Bellbrook recently or currently offers a deferred compensation plan to its employees that is administered by the ICMA Retirement Corporation, and whereas recent changes to the Internal Revenue Code allow for Roth elective deferrals and in-plan Roth conversions to be included in this deferred compensation plan, and whereas the City of Bellbrook desires to amend its deferred compensation plan to allow for designated Roth accounts, now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the city manager is hereby authorized to amend the City of Bellbrook's deferred compensation plan administered by the ICMA Retirement Corporation to allow designated Roth accounts. In Section 2, this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. And this is just adding the Roth conversion or the Roth account to our deferred comp plan currently.
Right,
And,
just to, yes, just to give our employees another option. This would obviously be Roth or post-tax contributions, but it allows them to, they can
accrue
choose if they.
tax-free and take out.
Tax-free and take it
yeah.
out afterwards. So it's just another option to offer to the employees.
And
And
any
it-
cost would be borne by the plan or by the employee, not the city.
Exactly, there's no cost to the city.
Good, good.
And this does not affect your other outside Roth either. I was surprised about that because we did this at Dayton Power, or Vectren. I'm looking at Dayton Power Line. So this is separate than your outside Roth. So you could actually really hit it up depending on So, seems like a good option to me. Any questions on council? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt resolution 2015-H?
Mayor, I'd like to move for the adoption of resolution 2015-H.
May I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Mr. Swiller to adopt resolution number 2015-H, authorizing the city manager to amend the City of Bellbrook's deferred compensation plan administered by the ICMA Retirement Corporation to allow designated Roth accounts. Seconded by Mrs. Seeger Lawson. Mr. Sweller?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
And Mayor Barry.
Yes. Moving on for our city manager's report this evening.
Yes, a couple items, and I know we've talked about this several times now, but the cell tower, every time we get together, I think I learn more about the cell tower industry and what's going on. So, the latest, I have talked to Crown Castle. They are the current leaseholders. They are the ones that are paying us on the annual and monthly basis. I did communicate with them, and they clarified one point, which is, right now, we get the annual payment, which was the original annual payment, and we get what they call a surcharge, which is the monthly amount for having a tenant, another tenant on that tower. What the lease actually says, though, is whether it's 1 or 10, we just get one surcharge payment. So we're not going to get additional if additional carriers go on there from them. We are getting what we're going to get from them. So that clarified that. During my conversation with the gentleman, though, we were talking about, what prompted this, and he, obviously they do lump sum offers, which is what sort of started this, and Crown Castle has obviously then in turn offered us a lump sum price to basically buy out the lease. Their lump sum price is actually significantly higher than the other ones. It's $492,000. The highest one we had seen before was $430,000. The other part of that they offered would be, right now in the original lease, they leased 2,500 square feet of ground space, the 50 area around that tower. Anytime somebody new goes on there, they have to have their equipment on the ground plus what's on the tower. Right now, there's only about 140 square foot of that original lease left that they have not gone out and leased to Sprint or T-Mobile or whoever that is. So they have an option today in our current contract to lease additional land at a price. They would also buy out any future of land that they would need too. If it came up, the number was, I think, 150 per square foot or something like that is what it was, that they would buy that out. So again, I talked with the mayor briefly beforehand. I don't have the answer as to what we should do. I think my gut says that if everyone keeps offering us this money, that it's probably worth more than what they're offering. But at the same time, it's hard to walk away from nearly $500,000 plus a small opportunity to earn more money if they add more carriers on there. So I did, and actually Mr. Martin gave me the name for an attorney that deals specifically, this is all that they deal with. He's based out of Florida, but I did contact them, just talk with him briefly, just gave him an overview of he's obviously very familiar with this type of lump sum purchase and that. They would look at the lease more carefully if we wanted to commit, paying some fees to him, he would review it, and I don't think he could make any more of a financial recommendation than what we already know today. He could probably just tell us the ins and outs of the leases and things like that, but and he would probably know some more of the market conditions,
Market potential.
Things like that. Every time I talk to somebody, other than an independent person, they tell me what their opinion of the market conditions are. And when you talk to Crown Castle, he tells me that our lease payments are at the high end of the spectrum. And of course, when I talk to their competitor that's trying to buy out the lease, they say that they're at the low end of the spectrum. So, you can only, they all have a vested interest in making you believe what's in their best interest. So, again, I don't have a recommendation. I guess I'm open to any comments or suggestions if anyone has them. Right now, we're still collecting the money. We'll continue to collect the money on the lease. I think our real option now is just whether we want to continue to have the lease play out over the next 20, 30, 40 years, or if we want to take a lump sum option and take that money and run, literally, yes.
What's the current annual lease payment again?
It's about $32,000 a year is what we get.
32 right now, and it has the potential to go up a little.
It'll go up every year by the consumer price
CPI.
index. Yes. So. So,
But if we wait another month, our offers might get.
they could get higher, or they
I'm
could.
sure if we said 500, they'd probably go for it. But
Right, they could go higher, they could go lower, they could,
market conditions could change, who knows?
right. So that's sort of the game. I mean, they could decommission that tower tomorrow just as easily and walk away, and we would have no lease payments or anything, so.
I'm sort of indifferent. I don't have an opinion either, because it's, we start getting these offers and they keep going up, and it doesn't look like the future market potential is not that great. I don't know.
No, the one thing is, I mean, we're getting these offers coming in unsolicited. And what that amounts to is we're actually gonna end up having an auction. It goes to the highest bidder. And if that's the case, then let's go out and find somebody who can solicit for us, the highest bidder. There's other players in the market besides the three we've talked to. I don't know who does that, or if we can find out who does it, maybe do some digging and find out. But I think if that's the case, I mean, if we're gonna have an auction, let's have an auction, do it right, and let's find the highest bidder and move on. I mean, right now, we're taking whoever comes to us. I'd like to change the process and say, okay, guys, here's the tower, here's the property, you can have additional 150 square feet, you tell us a number. You've already got 3 players, maybe we get 5 players in it.
Yeah, I wonder if we would issue it like an RFP or
Right,
something.
right, right.
Say we have this.
Well-
Hamilton Township down in Warren County did do that. They did issue an RFP and solicited bids for that. I guess, to me, before we go, I mean, is that the direction we want to go? I mean, I don't even know, I don't know what the price threshold is that would say, yes, we want to do that. Is it 500,000? Is it $750,000? What is that number that says, okay, now is time to pull the trigger?
Well, I mean, right now at 500,000, if my math's not too far off, that's like 17 years
Close to
worth
it.
of revenue.
A little bit less because of the CPI, but
CPI.
yeah,
Call it six, call it
Net present
15,
value
right?
issue.
Call it 15.
it's 15, yeah.
I mean, a multiple of 15 is getting on up there, and
It
so,
is.
if somebody's willing to give you a lump sum of, represents, pick a number, 20, 25 years, I think we ought to jump all over it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
and I'm not opposed to it either. I think the biggest issue we contend with is that kind of money. Normally, if you were a normal business environment and not a city that's mandated that we have very few investment opportunities, that's the deal changer, because CPI is much greater than we'll ever get in our savings account. And I think if we go that route, then we probably, which I'm not disagreeing with at all, then we really do need to maximize our what we can get, and probably spend the money to do an RFP.
Once we can push it out 20 years, I mean, technology's got to change. We might be in a better position to lock something in right now. It's not the highest tower in the area, number
So
one.
it's gotta be-
Within eyesight of a tower even higher than that. I mean, that's
Right.
not
So
a
lowest
big
point in
secret,
the-
but at some point in time, these towers are probably going to be bigger and better, and probably big enough that they'll have them in all the high spots and not have to worry about having coverage in low spots as much. If that's the case, I mean, we should maybe have a finance committee meeting and talk a little bit about it as far as the years and see what's, but
I think I think that's a great idea. I think it probably should be kicked to the finance committee to make a recommendation.
okay.
We can
have
do
to
that.
it.
I will continue to gather information. When I have enough, then we can get a finance committee meeting together and talk about it some more and figure out where to go from here.
It's always a question like we're talking about. I mean, something, you get an unsolicited offer, is that the offer? And then you don't really know what the value is. And it probably doesn't make sense to get these things appraised because it's only gonna be as good as somebody gives you an offer for, and I'm sure there's not a lot of models out there for it.
Right.
But that's the deal, we leave money on the table, or can we get the highest offer?
Yep.
And we don't need it for any operational issues, right?
Well,
No,
well,
I mean,
and we can always
need
use
it.
it for
We're still
operating.
operating. We have an
Right, yeah.
operating
Everything.
deficit every
Yeah.
year, even though
Yeah.
we've got.
No, Donna's question, I think, is the tower
The
itself.
tower itself,
No.
yeah.
She's not talking about the money, she's talking about the tower. In other words,
Doesn't impact
do we
the
use it? And the
No.
answer is
Police and
no.
fire or anything.
Well, if
we
we do a
don't-
tower, we could use the water towers ourselves, right? I mean,
That may be
if we-
the other market potential too, is, and we talked about, that'd be a good thing for it's finance, right? Or service, but,
Yeah, that we put that in the auction as well.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe we turn both out.
start out, Nick, just
No, I agree.
You
I think,
okay?
I agree with Mr. Schwell. I think if we could find a professional broker who deals with these sort of things and, open up the bidding process to more than just who approaches us, I think we'd be better served.
I would agree. Everyone agree on council with that action?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. There's something initiating this offer, so
Yeah.
I'd like to know a little bit
I
more.
think that's where we're all at.
Other two items that I have, just a couple date reminders. The Sugar Maple Festival this year, they moved it to the fourth week of April, so it's April 24th through the 26th. And then the Community Garage Sale is May 14th through the 16th. So just mark your calendar now and plan for those dates. And that is all I have this evening.
Don't forget, we'll need to pass
Yes,
a.
I've got that note
Okay.
on that in the
All right.
future.
Moving on, committee report, service,
Nothing tonight.
safety,
Next week, St. Patrick's Day, everybody be careful.
St. Patrick's Day, and basketball, finance and audit,
Nothing more to report tonight, Mayor.
community affairs.
Nothing tonight.
Any old business to come before council? Any new business? Open discussion. Nick,
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor.
Forrest,
Nothing, Nightmare.
John?
I had the, I'm not going to say privilege. I went to Columbus and just wanted to mention the Schneider family here in Bellbrook. I think they actually technically don't live here anymore. I believe John's dad lives in Bellbrook, and his mom, Chris, has moved to Indiana. But John was the young man who was killed in Columbus last weekend through just a horrific, unfortunate series of events, but just tragic all the way around. But he graduated from Bellbrook here in 2012 and was known. A lot of the community, a lot of the Bellbrook people were there in Columbus, and I think that the family truly appreciated that. So just keep them in your thoughts and prayers.
Thank you, John.
Don't
Lillian?
have anything tonight.
Donna?
No, nothing tonight.
Mike?
Just a comment, the police department, I like what you're doing, guys. I like the direction you're taking, and I continue to get positive feedback from the citizens, so I think stay the course, and I'm happy to have you involved and happy to have the command staff where it is.
And I have nothing this evening. This is open to the audience too. Okay, I see no one running up and jumping forward. Does any other member on council have any other things to come before us this evening? If not, this meeting is adjourned.